Let's shake your hand, of course, but
Okay. Good to have you.
thanks for having me.
Are you from Orlando or?
I am. I live right here.
Right in Allen Park.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good pictures about that too, actually. But yeah,
Mhm.
I built here in 04
Wow.
in the Timber
16
Creek
years.
Village.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother actually built before me.
Even, yeah.
Yeah, so in Village 1, I think it was. That's how I got to know him.
Yeah, the first homeowners moved in June '99. You know, that was the first, Village One Life Oak Village. Actually, I think I was house number 50 in the house on Life Oak Park. And that was, but I was kind of like the end of '99, so I mean, that took a little bit longer, and some people like, I'm not sure if Alan Ibauer is on the
Yes.
screen today, he was house number 8, in Avalon, so
Oh, he's not actually, he's not on yet.
he's not on now.
Yep. It was amazing how much everything built up. I work at the Kennedy Space Center,
Okay,
so when I scoped out where to build, so the land here was nice. That road, Avalon Park 250,
yeah.
was empty. I was like, okay, no traffic in the morning. This would be great. And
Yeah. Now,
now it's like,
but now you can take the beach line, right? I mean, can't you?
it's actually still faster that way.
Yeah, because the beach line gets you too much south, right? And then you have
Yeah.
to,
Like, it's faster, but the mileage is more, so it's actually the same. And this side has to pull
yeah.
on the beeline one. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I mean, here in the 3-mile radius, 25 years ago, there were only cows, and now there's 60,000 people, So, I mean, if you make a 3-mile radius, you have 60,000 here. And notwithstanding that, like, we still have to preserve the Hell Scott, but nobody is, so, yeah, definitely became a long way. I remember I always tell people our problem was we had no traffic, which means, home buyers, etc. From no traffic, so we had a traffic problem of having no traffic. We had too much traffic. Well, I mean, I don't think it's not too much, So wherever I go in the world, I mean, in Europe, Asia, bigger cities, or up north, I mean, people who complain about traffic, they don't really know what traffic is. I mean, if you've ever been in Manila, that's it takes you 6 hours to go through the city, or just cities like.
No, I visited Vietnam a couple times.
I'm sorry.
Vietnam, where I'm from.
Yeah. Okay.
And like Vietnam, the size of Florida, you would think going from one place to the next,
Yeah.
Shouldn't take too long. Because the road conditions, the traffic, nobody obeys the traffic system. Everybody goes where they want to go.
I think on the Vietnamese community is probably the biggest one in Orlando of all Asians. Could that be?
I think so.
Do you know why the Vietnamese picked Orlando? Just coincidence? I mean, they're in New York too, but I mean.
I honestly don't know. It just seems like with any group of people, they just happen to sit down one place and more people come, and then all of a sudden you got enough people to have markets and restaurants, and more people come.
Yeah, it's like Fort Myers. A lot of Germans went to Fort Myers, and I researched about. Yeah, it was just one tour operator offered the destination from Frankfurt, and there's a lot of Vietnamese in Paris, for example, too. But that's, I think, historically, Vietnamese spoke French. I mean, so that's what.
Because when we were a territory colonized from Indochina,
Yeah.
it was French. So my mom speaks French.
Moi, je parle français aussi. Moi, je vis de la Suisse, je parle français. That's okay.
Okay, I think we have everybody online now, and I think we're ready to get started.
Let's go.
Full time for
I
your
just closed the
presentation.
door.
Yeah. Can everybody hear okay? See okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yes.
I am getting a little bit of feedback if you don't have muted. Okay, I think we're all muted now. So we'll go ahead and get started.
All right.
Mr. Wynn. Hi.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. So before I get started, I should start with the story, actually, that kind of factors into this whole business plan a little bit. So story about myself, back when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was in a science and math competition over in Tampa on the west side of Florida here. And that evening, me and my friend was, after the school events, we were crossing the road, and unfortunately he got hit by a car.
Wow.
Yeah, just crossing the street back. And unfortunately he didn't survive past the night and such, but
Wow.
it's just to say that from that moment, it was kind of difficult being a 12, 13-year-old trying to go through something like that, how to deal with some sadness, how to deal with anger and such like that. But I think I quickly realized one way or another that it didn't do much good to sit in that space. It was much more beneficial to try to see the positive, and of course knowing that he won't be able to experience as much. I would have to live on and try to do as much as I can with my life. Try to be more productive with what I have. So that kind of feeds into what's driven me, even though I didn't know it for such a long time, into where I am today. So with the venture out, this is our vision. It's to empower people to be more positive and productive. I think an interesting and good way to think about the venture out would be kind of like a mentorship relationship. I've had mentors almost all of my entire career before I even knew what a mentor was, honestly. I've mentored folks now for several years, and I've seen them progress in their careers as well. So at the end of the day, I think being a mentor means somebody that's on your side, somebody's there to give you unique insight, perspective on life, and it's kind of rooting for you, but also there to give you something tangible to work with. So I think that's what the venture out is, and that's what we're trying to do. So with that, I want to go through what we're currently offering, what the business is today as it is, and primarily we produce an email that gets sent out to our audience. So I'm going to walk through what a typical email structure consists of. So when you get the email, you open it up. It's sent out twice a week, 7 a.m. in the morning per your time zone. So it's able to send out depending on where you geographically live. You open up the email, the first thing you get is an image that's hopefully inspiring, something to get your blood going a little bit, something to get you kind of active in the morning, to kind of pique your interest a little bit. From there, we get into a positivity statement. So this is something I craft per the email that's kind of in tune with the content of the email. So usually there's a theme for that email, or for several emails perhaps. So there's a positive statement to get you going again, to kind of get you in the right mindset. And then a little narrative about something personal perhaps, something to relate what that theme for the day is to how it affects our life, right? And then maybe I'll end with something like things I love. So this is a product that I've actually used, that I endorse, that hopefully ties into the whole concept as well. So keep on scrolling, you get to another image, and then we start diving into what the theme is for the day. So there's a couple of different headings I toggle between. This one happens to be health. It could be health, relationships, productivity, adventure. So some certain themes to capture it. And then from there, this is the core of the email. So this is the lesson, the takeaway perhaps. You read this, hopefully you gain something out of it, stimulates your mind, and also leaves you with some quick, easy takeaway action. So hopefully when you read this, it takes no more than a minute or two max, something short, but also something that you can kind of walk away with. If you're really interested, there's that little section on the bottom called Dig Deeper. So then you go click a little deeper and kind of explore the content a little bit more as far as how I got the research for this thing. Okay, and the email ends with just some humor. So usually I put some little joke that I found on the internet somewhere, and again, just to line up the mood a little bit. Science has shown that a little humor kind of just gets you relaxed and a little more happy about life. So, okay. And the very footer at the bottom, and I'll dig into this a little bit more in detail a little bit later, about crowdsourcing and about being a Patreon. But then you see the hot links on the bottom for all the social media links as well. So let's dive into that for a second. So in terms of social media, Twitter and Instagram, we're roughly about 3,800 followers on both those accounts right now. And then on our website, it captures all the content there too. So it's not just the emails, but the emails crafted in a way that's into articles, and it's all posted there as well. So to summarize where we're at today, we're at 25,000 people on the email distribution list. We have an open rate of about 19%, which is just about industry average actually. Again, social media accounts about 3,800. We also have a texting list as well. So we've got 1,000 people sign up for a texting service as well. Okay, so that's where we're at today. And which brings me to what I'm asking for. Oops. There you go. Which brings me to what I'm asking for. So the ask is, as part of the business plan, the pitch is for $100,000 to help expand the enterprise and expand the business. 4 main areas I would concentrate in. One is expanding the reach, growing the list size past 25,000 to at least over 100,000. Secondly, trying to build the infrastructure for the business a bit more sustainable and a bit more scalable. Right now, I'm just doing it off of WordPress. It'd be great to hire an IT developer as well as to build more capabilities in the future, which is part of the business plan too. Partnering with local folks to help author some of this content. So partnering with some local folks that are experts in wherever the tie-in for the venture out would be, whether it be health-related, fitness-related, something socially related, finding some folks nearby that can help tap into and create some of this content as well. Okay. So, but with that, I know if you're investing in the company, you're also investing in me, the person behind it. So a couple more stories about myself, if you don't mind. My parents escaped from Vietnam. So back in 1979, my parents escaped with my 3 older siblings. Middle of the night, out in the ocean, lost for several days, starting to run out of food. They finally got picked up, eventually moved over to Cambodia and into what you see there is the typical Cambodian refugee camp. So they were there for several months. And then eventually the United States accepted them and they migrated over. And my mom gave birth to me. So I was there the whole time, but I don't know anything about it, obviously, so I lucked out big time with that one. But a couple of lessons I learned for sure is, it's taken a long time to realize this stuff, but it takes a lot of hard work to get to where you're at today. And my parents came over here with nothing, 4 kids. All 4 kids are engineers. So it just takes a lot of hard work. But it also showed me that it's a lot of empathy. A lot of folks it takes to create that type of success. So who I am today a bit. So I currently work at NASA at the Kennedy Space Center. Been there for over 22 years now. Went there, interned there during college, and I've been there ever since. I worked in the Space Shuttle program, worked in several different NASA projects. Over the last decade or so, I've been in various leadership positions. So I've been able to lead some strategic initiatives, do some change management, been a supervisor for the longest time now, a business manager as well. My current project is about the Deep Space Gateway, so we're building this small outpost around the moon, and I'm in charge of the business aspects of it. So it's a contract value worth upwards of $7 billion over the span of 12 years. So that's what that project is about right now too. So.
Cool picture.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. That was you, right?
Yeah. Zero G. So,
Wow.
quick sideway. We're supposed to do that 0G flight. We're also supposed to do some sort of experiment.
Mhm.
As soon as you got 0G, nobody cared about the experiment. Everybody was just hanging out and smiling, having the biggest grin on their face. So it was great. Lately, the last several years too, I've been getting into a lot of hiking and camping. I've taken a class on Introduction to Mountaineering. The picture on your left-hand side there is out in Denver, Colorado, Pikes Peak. So I think what I love about this aspect here is the pushing yourself mentally. It's not just the physicalness of it. It's definitely a component, but I think more often than not, it's not the physical limitations that hold you back from summiting the peak, perhaps. It's the mental limitation of like, am I too cold? Should I turn around? Am I going to survive the rest of the way? All of that mental struggle right there is, you don't enjoy it at the time, but afterwards, when you get back home, you're like, yeah, that was a enriching experience right there. So, and then just a few more things about me. I do like to travel the world, so I've been to 6 out of the 7 continents. Been to
There's the
Asia.
Matterhorn.
But that's good for you.
I was in Switzerland last week.
I also like to draw and artist, so I've done a lot of other side businesses and entrepreneurs over the years as well. I used to run a web comic strip that I published for 5 years straight.
That's when you built your home with Ryland Homes, or what?
Yes.
That's interesting. That's a historic, they don't exist anymore. They got bought by, they merged with Standard Pacific, and then they got sold to Lennar. But the guy who was running Orlando became their CEO. But then he became he went, because of Avalon, among others, all the way up to the top ladder. And eventually they sold to Lennar. They just, it's not a big more.
Interesting. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Ryland, honestly. Like at the time,
Oh, yeah.
there were a couple of different choices. I can't afford David Weekly. I love David Weekly.
David's a lot. No, I mean, Ryland was obviously, he had a very, very large relationship with them. And, so.
That's cool. That's cool.
You remember?
But yeah, so that's my house over by Timber Creek
Who was in
area.
the middle there, the gentleman?
Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart,
Okay.
the actor.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just to showcase, I do draw, and I used to have a comic strip and
Mhm.
which I published and such. Bottom left-hand side, podcasts. I have a podcast with a couple of my friends, and then my dog that I get to dog sit every once in a while nowadays. So but anyway, so just a bit more about myself. So me as a person. So back to what we're trying to solve. So 4 things. 1, positivity. Again, I think it's easy to look around the news and see a lot of negativity. I think we see that a lot of divisiveness, polarization. And yet positivity helps us in so many ways from a health benefit perspective. There's even research that shows that, people who think they're lucky, they're not really lucky. It's just that they're positive enough to open themselves up to opportunity. So there's a big gain to be had there. Productivity, I think we all experience this deep yearning of like, hey, we want to do something in our life, a deep fulfillment aspect of it all. But it gets hard because it's technology changes so quickly. We're always expected to be on all the time, answering emails at all hours of the night. So it just gets kind of hard these days to be productive like that. 3, taking action. So it's not enough to be positive or productive. You got to know how to take some action with that too. So again, I think that's an area that Venture Out will help out quite a bit with giving very actionable steps to our audience. And then number 4, being socially conscious. So I don't think it's enough these days either to ignore what's going on around the world in terms of climate change or social unrest. So I think in those areas, I think it's important to also make a stand and be behind those two. Digging into a little bit of the market trends before we dig into what the Venture Out will actually produce. So we covered a little bit talking about how we currently produce an email. So you see a quick stat there, 65% of marketers still believe that it's a high return on investment. I think there's a reason why we still get asked for emails all the time, every time we go shopping online someplace. It's still just the main way of connecting with your audience. The only difference we'll do is try and establish a bit more of a connection, more of a personal connection with our readership as well. But email is still dominant, so it's still a great source of revenue, great source of ads. Influencers, so these are folks who have a big social following on whatever group it is. They're people who have enough followers that they can drive the conversation. So back in 2018, on Instagram alone, $1.3 billion were spent on those folks to promote products and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So and that number is expected to double by this year, 2020. So and that's Instagram alone. So again, influencers are a big source of revenue as well. So again, if Venture Out develops into a big enough followership, then we can also drive that conversation. The third number you see there, talking about texting. Right? So texting average response rate 45% and 36% click-through rate, right? Way higher than email, right? And we talk about taking action, right? So I'm going to link those two together in a little bit here, as far as how do we help folks take action with a high response rate. Okay. And then finally, number 4, the socially conscious piece right there. So 61% of folks will recommend a brand that aligns to their values. So again, I think we're going to see that more and more these days. We see that with the hashtag Stop Hate for Profit. I was opening the news today even, talking about how they were trying to push now to boycott the Goya brand because there are some political things behind that too. So it's just important nowadays to stand by your values, and I think the consumers will recognize that as well. So again, what is the Venture Out going to do? Venture Out publishes content related to positivity and productivity. We are based on a combination of research and personal experiences. So a couple of things to dig into there. 1, publishes content. Right now it's email. Right now it's social media. But in the future that could be anything. Again, that could be the texting service I'm going to talk about here in a second. It could be more traditional if you're like publishing books, magazines. So the core concept being publishing content, again, related to positivity and productivity, and then using a combination of research and personal experience. I don't think it's enough to talk one or the other. You throw numbers at people all day long, it may not hit them well, and you tell anecdotal stories, they may not resonate as well. So I think you need a combination of the two in order to drive home the point. Okay. So let's dig into a bit of the revenue sources here. 3 main areas. The first one being advertisement and affiliates. Second one, subscription service, and the third one being crowdfunding. Right. So the first one, advertisements. So here's how it works. A little case example. There is another newsletter called Elevator, geared towards men's lifestyles. So this email goes out to over 300,000 people every day, every weekday, right? So that's their readership. And one ad in one of those emails costs over $3,000 that they charge. So extrapolate that out, 15,000 hours a week, 780,000 hours a year that they generate off of ad on the emails alone, right? So I'll draw the correlation to the venture out. If we can develop our audience size to get to at least 100,000, the magic number that I hear it takes for advertisers to start paying attention to you. So if we get to 100,000, let's say we charge $1,000 for that ad, we'll be equating to just slightly over 100,000 hours a year on ads alone, right? So that's revenue stream number 1. Secondly, the subscription service. So I'll talk about a case example here. There's a company called The Nudge, right? So The Nudge is based geographically. So they focus on certain cities, Austin, San Francisco, and I think New York City perhaps. And what they do is if you sign up with them, in this case, $10 for 2 weeks worth of content, they'll text you what's going on in Austin, right? So they'll text you, hey, new restaurant just opened up nearby, go check it out. Hey, this weekend there's a festival going on in Austin, go check it out. So it's kind of like your personal service based on the geography. So again, the correlation for the venture out would be, we will be offering content, again, related on positivity, productivity, right? So let's say you want to get more fit this year, right? So we'll offer a 30-day plan, text to you with tips, images, maybe links to more articles, whatnot, for you to dig into a little bit. Somebody to keep you accountable to those skills as well. It could be even something like the social unrest going on today, right? You may be, I want to get more involved. I just don't know how to have this conversation. So we could be offering this text service that shows, hey, go read this article. Step 1 gets you more aware of what's going on. You know, by 10 day, it might be, hey, go check out this local area that you can participate in, right? So again, $5 a month for this content, audience size 100,000 folks. And if I assume a conversion rate of just 1%, if just 1% of those people sign up for the service, that will equate to $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year based on the service. Okay. And then finally, crowdfunding. So it's kind of like a tip jar. This is the donation portion. There's a platform out there called Patreon. Where folks can, if you're a fan of somebody producing some content, you just sign up and say, hey, I want to give that person $1 a month, and then you just pull from it.
Sorry, it just didn't. Oops, sorry.
Cool. So back to the crowdfunding piece. So there's a platform out there called Patreon that I've been using. So I'll use a case example again. So there's a site called McSweeney's Internet Tendency, right? So they're a book publisher, article publisher out there. And on the Patreon platform, they're asking for a minimum of $3 per month donation. They have higher tiers, $3, $10, $15, and then you get different rewards along the way. Maybe exclusive content or something like that, maybe some swag along the way. But anyway, so minimum $3 a month. Currently, they have over 3,000 people contributing to this site, right? So that's at least 10,000 hours a month, at least 20,000 hours a year. So again, drawing a correlation to the venture out. You know, if we just have a fan donation of, let's say $1, say thank you. If you're interested in what we do, donate $1 a month. Audience size 100,000, conversion rate 1%, $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. So another just like a tip jar. Thank you. Okay, so that covers the revenue streams that I'm anticipating for venture out. Talking now a little bit about how I would operate the actual business, right? So very simple org chart, very lean, operate like a startup. A few takeaways here I want to talk about. On the far right side, the business support, I know with the Avalon Innovation Fund you guys would offer, hopefully. some of the services, so I plan on taking full advantage of that and any other help that you guys would offer, of course. So definitely happy to take that. And then on the bottom boxes there, again, I want to highlight a little bit about the content creation folks. Again, I'm trying to, as much as possible, tap locally into the area, as well as the marketing and IT solutions. Any businesses nearby and folks nearby that we can tap into to generate that content or build the IT service, the texting capability that I'm talking about, would be beneficial. And finally, on the left-hand side, talking a bit more tactical as far as what to do. It's nice to have the vision, it's nice to have the strategic plan, but you also got to be tactical with the day-to-day steps as well. So, how am I going to review the financial reports monthly, making sure we're obligating and costing, making sure we're not going over, linking the big-term strategic plans, breaking it down to bigger chunks, smaller chunks, and then even actionable steps, and making sure folks are responsible and know what they're doing and how that all feeds back into the bigger piece as well. So I think all that is very important to build into the cadence of the business. Talking about milestones now. So this is built off of a 12-month plan. So over the course of 12 months, this is the plan I would like to take. During this COVID pandemic thing, I've been running a lot, so I've started using some running analogies. So forgive me there. So month one, getting our footing, right? So this is, once you guys say go, we would immediately go find some project support to help us out, as well as start developing that strategic roadmap and developing that marketing plan. So one of the first things is start reaching more people, right? Hopefully by month 3, we've got our team established, and then we'll contract with the IT infrastructure folks to build out that capability, upgrade the website, upgrade the social media, but most importantly, build in that SMS texting capability as well, right? So that's going to be a big chunk. Also establishing some content creator partnerships. So by this point, using the network that I have, and if you all know some folks too, of course, tapping into that deep network of experts and folks who are interested in generating some content, bringing them on board, getting them on board with the concept, and getting them off and running, producing that concept. So month 3 through 7, it's a bit of a lag, but that's a lot of work behind the scenes right there, right? Content creators are making their stuff, we're working with them to make sure it all fits the theme of positivity, productivity. The IT folks are developing the new tools, doing some trials, making that all work. So it's going to take a little bit of time for that, I think. But hopefully by month 7-ish, it's time for a sprint, what I call it. So let's do a soft rollout. Let's advertise this new capability. Let's see how it really functions, how it works. You also notice a step function above too. We start off at 25,000 readership right now. If we do the plan right, we grow the base a little bit. Once we get to the magic number of 100,000 folks subscribed, that's when we can start reaching out to advertisers. Hey, you want to come advertise on our platform? Folks who share the same core values too. So not just anybody, hopefully brands and stuff that are interested and share those values with us. So we'll reach out to those folks, get them on board, hopefully get that revenue stream rolling. And then by month 10, let's get into it, and we're into a good rhythm, hopefully. So again, a summary of how the funds would be used. This breaks out the 100K, 20,000-ish towards expanding the reach. Again, this is where we're reaching out using our marketing plan to partner with some social influencers as well, micro-influencers, to spread our message and drive some readership as well, right? And then almost 40K for building the business. This is mainly the IT component of making that all work. 14K partnership content creation, so partnering with local folks again to create that stuff for us. 18K-ish for project management, so that's the support staff. I'll probably be reaching out locally, UCF folks. I came from UCF with my master's degree in business over there, so reach out over there for some interns or some recent graduates and see if they want some work right now. 6K, build a strategic roadmap. Again, I know a professor over at UCF that does this. That's his bread and butter, leading strategic retreats and building a plan, helping businesses think through threats and opportunities and all that stuff. And holding back 5K for reserves for his unanticipated needs and whatnot. So that's the plan for the 100K. How that looks in terms of projections. The red line is the expenditures. So you see some heavy spike at the very beginning. So this is where we're working with the IT partnership to get that established, get that going. Until we actually dig into it and actually get some quotes, those are just rough estimates and planning numbers for now. Again, you'll see the step function of building the audience list up, and that's what coincides with the green line, right? The green line is the revenue source. Green line really depends on the 100K of readership. So depending on when we hit that market is when we can pull that to the left or maybe to the right, unfortunately. So again, that's the plan. But in the long run, you'll see I'm anticipating expenditures level out around $7,000 or $8,000 a month, and then by that point, hopefully the business takes off. And then I'll just end it with another story, if you don't mind. So this is a picture actually from the launch control room at the Kennedy Space Center. So that's the space shuttle launch in the background there. This is what we call the bubble. So these are all the senior folks sitting in the bubble. The real work happens right to the right of them, where the folks are sitting console. Mm-hmm. So I used to sit console for several years for launch day and whatnot. My system was the thrusters for the space shuttle. Really? Right. So on launch day itself, actually, my system actually doesn't do much. It's all the other systems that does a lot. So anyways, my lead for that launch, he said, "Hey Johnny, I'm taking vacation. You'll be fine. Nothing ever happens in our system. You'll be good." Right. So I'm sitting launch. Something goes wrong. Right. Launch is scrubbed for that night. Launch director calls me in. "All right, Johnny, how are we going to solve this, and when are we going to be ready for launch again?" So it was a very humbling moment because I really wanted to look him in the eye and be able to have an answer, but I was just too junior in my career. I didn't know enough about yet. But that was an important lesson because I wanted to make sure before I sit in any chair, before I go do and represent something, I wanted to, have the background, the experience to represent it, and for the folks to trust that I'm going to do what I say. So I think that's a very important concept I learned that day, trust. Again, sticking with space exploration a little bit, space is a risky business. There's never 100% certainty that it's going to be safe for astronauts to fly, right? So it always comes down to risk-based decisions, not to be paralyzed with the analysis. When do you have enough information to make a decision, right? So it's that risk-informed decision. So again, I'm presenting with you that I've done my research. I've been operating this business for a couple of years now, that this is a risk-informed decision for you all. And then finally, the exploration. So space exploration, been doing it for 20 plus years. I'm a big sci-fi fan. Drawing the picture of Jean-Luc Picard there. So my day job, I get to go help explore space with the Venture Out. To me, it's about exploring the inner self, and there's discoveries to be made there as well. So,
wow,
that's it.
Very professional.
Right.
That's
Thank
it.
I'm going to disconnect you from here, and I'm going to
Okay.
pull the panel right up. So they'll show up behind you. We're trying to pull you guys up on the big screen so he can see you when he talks to you.
Mhm.
Caroline, do you want to go ahead and get started and ask Mr. Nguyen any questions, comments that you have?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Well thought out.
Clearly, my real question is though, you didn't address the competitive landscape at all, and there is a ton, I'll use that word, it's not a very professional term, but there are so many other sites out there, the whole e-mindful movement, which is just huge and growing rapidly, which gets to a lot of this. So talk about the competition and how you're really going to differentiate yourself in a really crowded market.
That camera's still right.
Mm-hmm.
You're totally right. In the market analysis, I'm signed up to a lot of several other emails as well. It is a crowded market as well. So in terms of I understand one of the weaknesses that we have is brand awareness for now, which is like, who is a Venture Out? What does it stand for? So it's going to take quite a bit to break through that bit of it. But I think a strength that I carry with that is over time with what I bring to the table with my own personal experience with the team that I'll be building. I think that'll help overcome and do that and crack through that piece right there. I think the other aspect that's different for now at least is that texting capability I'm hoping to bring to bear. So even though most folks are concentrated on more of the traditional fare of emails, publishing books, doing lectures and such like that, I'm hoping to capitalize on some other technologies such as texting and anything else that comes after that as well to continue to innovate on how do we deliver that message that's different.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Andreas?
Yes, thank you very much for this very
He's
professional
in Asia, he's in
presentation.
Singapore.
It's very well done. Yeah, I was also wondering a little bit, where is the clear USB, and at the same time I was missing a little bit like a crazy vision. Sometimes you need to have a little bit of crazy vision where you want to go to in 5 to 10 years. We had one of the presenters before you, he said next year he's at 350 million in revenue. That's definitely crazy and not grounded, so this is not feasible. But what do you think, what should be your vision?
Sure. Yeah. I do have a bit of a vision for that long-term wise. Is it's going to take a lot more flesh out, but I'm excited about growing the media publishing company aspect of it. I think that realm will have a lot of potential. Again, I think the focus of positivity and productivity are broad enough. And like Carrie Ann just said, it's a growing business right now too, booming across the board. But the words publishing content, I think, is wide enough that you can drive a bus through that perhaps, and that can lead itself to all kinds of stuff. It could become like the next Hearst magazine publisher, it become the next Games Magnolia company with all their resources with their new TV station kicking off, I think, in the fall here. So I think there is a lot of big potential as well in terms of where to take this as well.
Okay, yeah, because right now from a risk-reward profile, from the amount of investment that you're asking for and what bottom line is then feasible with the current business model, it doesn't offer so much room for fantasies also for an investor. Maybe there one has to add a little bit of salt or some pepper on it to get the mind going a little bit.
Thank you, Andreas. Anything else?
Thank you.
No? Thank you.
Thank you. Marta?
Good morning, Johnny. Thank you for your time and for your excellent presentation. I'm putting on the video. To understand a little bit the product, because you're up and running already, because you're asking for expansion, right?
Correct. I'm at 25,000 readership right now. I'm asking for the infusion of funds. I've spent personally my own funds of 20,000 so far over the last 2.5 years to invested in this. So I think the cadence I'm going right now with my personal expenditures into it, I think it will just grow slowly over time. But with the infusion, I think I can bring that up much faster.
Okay. Do you have any current advertisement affiliates already?
No.
And what your experience has been with them?
No, I have not have any ads placed on the venture out quite yet. I do have a links set up for affiliates, meaning kickbacks on product recommendations, but no, there's no substantial revenue coming from that.
And who will be those ideal ones? What do you think those advertisement affiliates will be your ideal, target?
I think it would be brands that are related to our core values. I'll bring you one example right now. So this is a cut by a company called Mir. So they're known to be quite socially conscious about global climate change, as well as giving back to the community. With every cup you buy, there's a code on the bottom. You register, and it tells you exactly where your money went into which project that is helping out in the local community. So brands like this, I think, would be fantastic to team up with and say, once we get our readership up to 100, 200,000 folks, we ask them, hey, would you like to advertise on our company, $1,000 or so? And I think these are the type of brands that we'd be going after. So I think, and I think there's a lot of them out there these days too.
And my last question, have you foreseen, or in your business plan, or in any part of the growth of your service, have you foreseen to integrate like any professional services that goes along with your editorial, your educational articles and that, and presenting that to corporate human resources offices to provide those services and get an account with them, or counseling somehow?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. When I was working on this pitch, actually, the analogy of mentorship came to mind, and that's, I think, something related to that, where that's kind of a pay it forward type effort, where by developing folks that are well-rounded in positivity and productivity, that those folks can then go out and reach out to more folks in the community as well. It's just a thought, though. I have not fully explored that at all.
Well, thank you for your time and answers your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Ravi.
Hey Johnny, Ravi here. Very inspiring story. Thank you for that. I have two questions that I'd like to ask. One builds on what Carol Ann asked you regarding the competitive, regarding the uniqueness of the product. So you said that you'd have a unique delivery method, right, with your SMS, your messaging services. Now, what would you say is unique then about your content?
Sure.
Or how would you make your content competitive?
Sure. So in my research of the market, there's lots of folks out there that do the email campaigns and talking about their messages. Folks who publish books, Tim Ferriss has a podcast, books, all kinds of stuff. With the SMS texting capability, I think what will be different that I don't see that's out there in the market today are those lesson plans that are so specific and deliver straight to you. I think an interesting analogy there would be, you all might be familiar with MasterClass. That's an app, that's a program, that's a classroom out there. You know, the experts are talking to you over 15, 20 lecture segments. It's a bit of investment, and you gotta sit down, and you gotta watch it, and there's stuff to fill out sometimes. So we're going for the more of a streamlined, easier approach, where still expert advice, folks who know what they're talking about, on a slew of different topics eventually that we would offer, but all delivered straight to you. So in more bite-sized chunks as well. Does that help answer the question, Arfi?
Yes, thank you. And my second question is, I assume you're running this part-time currently, your full-time job at NASA. How do you see that going forward? Are you going to continue running this part-time, or do you see yourself going full-time into this?
Yeah, I do see myself going full-time into this, but once we reach a critical juncture on this, I'm not sure what that juncture looks like quite yet. But yeah, I have been operating this in the part-time phase. And I see that going forward for at least until we reach some point that just consumes, that totally takes over my life. So I think the other benefit, though, honestly, is by being out there in space at NASA, I think there's a lot of creativity and innovation out there as well. So maybe we'll bring back some of that knowledge and put that back into what the venture out does as well. So there is a bit of a symbiotic benefit for the two being together as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alan.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, great presentation. I just had a couple of questions. One of them is around the advertising side and selling of advertising and getting, how does that, I think it's a specific skill set that knows how to get that into your content. So I don't know if you have, maybe if you said something about it, I just missed it. If you have somebody who's specifically understands how to do that, because that's obviously a big part of the financial model. I'll start with that question. Thanks.
Sure, appreciate that. That's a great point. I think that would be what I look forward in bringing on some additional folks to help the project out. I realize it's a different skill set. What I bring to the table may not necessarily be the salesmanship-like qualities as much. So I think that's where I'll be looking for augmenting the team in such a way that we bring different skill sets to the table as well. I know I'm good at the big picture vision. I'm good at creating tactical steps to make things happen. As far as salesmanship and being out in public and shaking hands and all that stuff, I think I'm okay, but that would be a good skill set to bring on board the marketing and the networking side as well.
Okay, that's great. And the second question I have kind of backs up on Ravi a little bit. I think the content is obviously the biggest component to the email so that it's engaging to the customer. You're putting rockets up, or you're part of the process that puts rockets up. I'm concerned about the time you have to be keeping the content up to date and fresh. And I'm just wondering if you had a network of folks that can help on the content side, or what that looks like for you to keep it coming, because I know that's going to be the basis of the company, really.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I think I do have the network to achieve that. So over the years, 20 plus years out there, and just being out and about with all my other side adventures and hobbies, I think I've collected a good network of folks that I can tap into if they're interested to come on board and participate and create content for us as well. So it won't be just me. I think it's going to be interesting the first several steps though, to make sure that they're on brand with what we're talking about, to make sure it strikes the right tone as well. But I do know folks who are, again, like fitness experts, organizational psychologists, marine biologists, other world travelers, all sorts of folks that are out there that I think when we focus it on, again, the topic, bringing their experience into that topic, I think it's going to be very, very fun.
A great answer. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I want to go back a little bit to Martha's comment about the mentorship. I think throughout all these presentations, that's kind of a common theme that we've internally discussed from a panel perspective. A lot of these new business owners, entrepreneurs, could use some mentorship in not only the business creation space, but also much of what you're talking about, the positivity, the productivity,
Sure.
Being able to navigate, for most of them, kind of a new space for them. So I think from a resource standpoint, from the fifth floor standpoint, that was one of the things that we would really like to implement as a mentorship program. So it would be something good that could plug into that, and maybe we could work with you to develop some type of more strategic plan on how that looks from the corporate standpoint.
Sure. That's interesting. Okay.
Absolutely. No, I mean, this was a great presentation. I mean, I can tell that you do that for a living, you know. So, I mean, I well polished, thought out, etc. So I would probably echo what Stephanie said. There's 100,000, but as we have seen a few times, if we just do a check of 100,000, my guess would be in 6 months you would still. I think what you need is kind of like this. I wouldn't even call it the camaraderie of an entrepreneurial group. If you jump into the 5th floor in our building, and there's 50 entrepreneurs around you in every floor, and you can hop from desk to desk. I mean, I think because you're in a very controlled environment at NASA. Very structured, etc. And it comes across. I as well would start. 37 years ago, I had not a penny. Yeah, no, maybe a few $100. I started on my own. Maybe you may say it's easy when you're 19, etc. And ever since, I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a little bit of feeling looking at you. You want to have the safety net? So here's NASA. Here's this. What I learned with entrepreneurs, you just have to jump into the water. So and that may be what we have to design for you and help you in a few steps. Here's NASA, and here's the own entrepreneur career. I don't think that the linkage is just 100,000. I think you need more things to go in. And I think you need a few things, and this is your program on the positivity. You think, you have to really be hungry and wanted to do it. Now I have a feeling a little bit in between. Hey, should I do this? Oh, if I get 100,000, I can try it. If it doesn't work out, I can go back to NASA. That would be my advice. But I definitely think you are based on your background. I think you're based on your genes. I mean, if somebody swims out of Vietnam, basically, or ends in Cambodia, I mean, I think it's that nature, and you're still that part. You're not 5th, 6th generation who has handled everything. You have to work for things, and you built a great career. And I think you can dream as well. Maybe it doesn't come across that well, but you can. Otherwise, you wouldn't be at NASA. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the space program. So I think we would love to work with you. I mean, as I always say, you are not here because it just took the phone book and picked a few people. There were over 150 applications, and we selected 20. So we sought a group of very diverse people. I mean, some in Asia, some in Europe, some in here, some very serial entrepreneurs. So I think that's kind of like my feedback to you. I don't really have questions, I have more observations at this stage, but I would say as we wrap this up, and the idea is actually presentations will be throughout the next week, and then we want to, we don't have this big corporate board who then meets in November and makes a decision, so we want to, early August make kind of like a decision how to support you effectively. I value it's a combination of various things, so that's kind of like what goes to mind, but well done. So.
I appreciate all of that, and I think I definitely do resonate that with quite a bit too. I still hear my mom in the background like, hey, go pick that stable career. What are you doing? Go get that stable income going in. Don't sacrifice that kind of thing. But growing up in America,
well, of course, with the history of your family, that's kind of like. But I think you are at the verge to say, okay, I had that now, and I really proven to my family I could do it. Now I really want to do, and that's kind of like I think, well, you have to have a few people who, can tell you, I did it too. I was swimming, it went well, don't worry about it, So what I see time and time as entrepreneurs, if they can't let go, they're controlled, salaried, structured profession, then there is a problem. I mean, that's not. I mean, so at some point, they do that quickly, So, but I think you need that help, So I mean, you need that assurance with other entrepreneurs in a network who are telling you, look, I mean, and look, I think a career very often can take all the long, kind of like going up, flat. Very rarely, I mean, with dedicated people, professional people like you, a career goes up like this, but entrepreneurship does it, So I think if you look, with me, I was 37 years. I can now say I started with nothing, I'm here. But, oh, wow, I mean, there were so many times where I, number one, kind of like told myself, I thought I have just a job. I can go home in the evening and don't have to worry about things, go to work the next morning. And I think that's the difference, So that's my assessment. You need, in that field, as Stephanie said, the money, because it's a service business, etc., is not the primary key. I mean, you're not a capital intense business. I mean, it's not kind of like if you have to look over, can we invest here 50 million because you have this mining plan or you have this whatever. I mean, what are the risks? What could be the setbacks? It's basically just investing in you. And I think at the end, it's investing time in you. And I think what will happen, it will be a win-win. So what I kind of like envision, looking down to that building, which is now completed and now the build-out happens, that we all gather together and there will be so much talent. It will be a give and take. You will get advice, you will get resources, monetary, technology, etc. But you will give advice as well, and that's kind of like where you will, start to, swim to a successful entrepreneur career. So, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. And did you have any other questions for any of the team members?
No, I think I'm okay. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate their time being so far away.
Yeah.
So late, yeah.
Yeah. So this is yes, and this has been recorded. We'll share.
Usually have this closed. So. For Caroline, it's not late.
Right down the road, right?
Exactly.
Huh?
Yeah, she's right down the road, right?
Yeah, she's easy.
Okay, guys, we'll see.
And as all of you have seen, our graduates always make us proud and do amazing things. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you all. We'll see you in a few more minutes for our last one today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
And thanks for what you do with Avalon Park too, by the way, both of you. So
thank you.
it's a beautiful
Building a town. Now we have a few other ones on the drawing board, so we have to